Hello, hello. Welcome y'all to our last Lunch and Learn of the week on Halloween Day, if you celebrate that. If not, it's just Thursday, October 31st. And this one is going to be led by not Jared, Gregory here. And we will begin in just a moment answering some questions. This should be a fun one to round out the week. And of course, we have our Decision Solutions Marketplace link here that you can be able to scan this QR code and go visit. If we don't have anything to display, any questions to answer, then I will gladly start with going over some of my own stuff that I'm working on. But give it just a few more moments. Let some people come in and then we'll work from there. Like crowd. Well, for if anyone's watching from the ether or wishes to follow up on this on YouTube, I can at least go over exactly what I'm currently working on in the decisions realm. And that would be trying to go over a video explaining the differences between starting linked flows async versus run flows for list step. So let me change which screen I'm sharing. If you'll give me all just a moment to do that. So I've got a project here that I'm working on putting these together. And yes, I would like to break this lock since I put it on. This you probably seen this step before, at least in one of the training sprints, where we have a process that allows you to create a flow and run it in asynchronous manner, which means that it will execute without having to process and allow the rest of the flow to go through. So what I've done in here is I've just added a delay step to demonstrate the differences between this versus a synchronous flow behavior, as well as go into how we can view where these flows are running in the thread job report, what the different things running mean, and what can happen going forth from there. So if I were to add, for example, just a subflow right here, it should be in my favorites somewhere. Ah, here we go, run subflow. All right. So let's show you a little bit of the difference visually just from the flow designer perspective, and then we'll branch out from there. So the flow I'm running in here is the one expendable flow. I'm going to pick that one expendable flow again. I want to run both flows from here. And if I were to click debug, you'll see that we can see the process inside of our one expendable flow, right? It's being delayed for 20 seconds as we asked it to, and it will eventually hit that end step and hit to the rest of this flow here. So that's running as expected. We can investigate it and see what's going on. However, once those 20 seconds are up, this flow right here is still running, but it's running in an asynchronous manner, or it's running on an asynchronous queue. So that queue is running in the background and not impacting the rest of this flow from going forward, which is kind of nice in some areas. There are some downsides to this, which I wish to discuss, but what's cool about this is that let's say you have a process where you take in a bunch of records and you want to save them to the database on the back end, but saving that stuff to the database doesn't impact the rest of the user experience in that flow. then you can run all those saves in an asynchronous manner, allow the rest of your flow to perform for the user to complete maybe a form, an assignment, put in more data, and not have that saving impact the performance of your main process. You'll notice in the debugger, though, we don't get an option to see what's running inside of this flow. It's just not something that we can see. It's not given to us. So I see we have. Oh, I apologize. Jeremy, I see that you've entered the attendees list. Did you have any questions for today? I'm not seeing anything yet. Oh, cool. Cool, cool, cool. All right. Well, if anything does come up, please let us know because currently you're the only attendee here at the moment. So I'm just going to go over some asynchronous flow behavior. So that's how the start linked flow async step works from the debugger perspective and in a design pattern. I want to show you what it looks like on the back end. So this time I'm going to remove this flow and I'm going to set my thread count to 2. All right. This is influencing how many different queues are going to get created on the back end. And you only see this when you check manage execution threads. You get to specify a thread job name and the thread count for it. So if I were to run this, not in the debugger, I'm going to run this flow 5 times. All right. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. All right. So now if I were to give me a moment.
Like an IP, an IP address redirects that user to the second identity provider. Okay, and so now that user logs in. Would you just make all of them green, man, so they can be seen?
Hey, would you mind muting your mic, please? I think some of the video is overlapping.
Right? No problem. But then that user accesses this page of the wrap rep that has our iframe. Our iframe gets a token. Okay, so
I'm sorry. I realized that I actually missed the window to do this. So give me just a moment on this. All right. Let's try this again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. All right. And then I'm going to go to scheduled jobs. We're going to go to thread jobs. And now let me share my screen again. Oh, I realized I was the whole time. My bad. Well, here is our scheduled job queue here. We've got all the way down here our worker queues. So I specified 2, right? That 2, you can think of it more of like an index, not necessarily a number of threads being created, but like an index for it. And indexing in decisions typically starts at 0. So we got 0, 1, and 2. And I clicked that run flow 5 times. So what that means is I've got 5 processes split amongst 3 different queues. You'll see the ones that are specified as currently running, and all they have is just that delay step in them. But you see the other ones backed up. They have this order to them. All that means is that as soon as the one in front of it's done, it's going to execute. It does not care about what's in any other queue. This one does not have to wait for all these zeros to complete, just the one in front of it. And this is running on the back end somewhere in whatever thread you have created. So that is the start linked flow async behavior. There's also the run flows for list behavior, which I'm going to go into as well. So let's go back. I believe it's in this one. Yes, yes, yes. All right. So in toExpendable flow, I've created a list of numbers here. And I don't know why it's not really expanding out as much as I thought. There are way more numbers here. There's 1, 2, 4, 8, 16, and 32. All right. And that's just going to put out a list of decimals. I can then pass those into my run flows for list step. And what I'm going to do inside of it is add a delay step just so, again, we can see this on the back end, what's going on. And let me increase this to 25 just to give myself a little bit more time. And then once that's passed, it's going to subtract the number by 1 and output it here. So let me go over some of the differences here. The start linked flow async step is designed. Oh, Smitha, I apologize. I see you have a question now. I'll be glad to answer that. Pause on this topic. Hi, quick question. Is there a limitation on the number of records that we can display in a grid without impacting performance? Thanks. That is going to depend on a few things. One, what kind of information are you displaying on this grid? Are you using any calculated columns which run some checks in the background? Do you have any flow run, uh, sorry, flow inline fields running? What kind of system are you running this on? Like 16 RAM, 16 gigabyte RAM, 32 gigabyte RAM, direct from external database? That's also going to depend on the fetch time for that, what the network is. It's there isn't a specific number that we can give you for this is what I'm trying to get at. So, like there are certain things that will impact performance more than others and certain ways to mitigate that, but there isn't a hard fast number that we can say after you've gone past this many items, it's going to start impacting performance. But some things that you can do, let me create a form here real quick, if you can give me just a moment. Let me do this back on the Lunch and Learn project. Yeah, here we go. Here we go. Let's go here. We're gonna call this Smitha form. Again, advanced data grid. Pass that along. Grid mode, I'll just do single select. The whole point of this isn't editing, though I do realize yours has the inline edit object, so I'll do that just to keep it consistent here. Let's just say we need a complex type. Do I still have costume in this project? Aha, we're grabbing that. All right, cool. And I'll call it the same thing, costume, right? I'll give an outcome button so it stops yelling at me, and we can put this in a flow to be able to pass data in. But what I want to go into first is this part right here. So there should be, where is it? I am looking for the pagination option. Use paging. All right. So this right here is a fantastic tool to use, and you can use in-memory data pagination. Oh, which one of these was the one? Pardon me. Let me look at this. This will take me just a moment. I want to recall exactly what this does. So I believe this, someone can correct me if I'm wrong here, but I believe for the in-memory data pagination, turning that off helps with not having to load every single page of your data grid at once. So adding pagination allows them to literally flip through pages in the data grid and display only a certain number of rows per page. So I could set that to 100. And then you could also choose how many if you want to load all of the records at once, which I would advise against for your use case, or only load them when a user goes to another page. So this way you can limit how much is loading at once, not have it run the entire display for every row in the report at once, and you can help the performance that impact that trying to have all these records loaded in at once would have. Is that making some sense? Yeah, absolutely. Glad to assist. Yeah, it's not something we can give a direct answer to because people's networks are different. Some person may have a database externally that's on a network that's slow as molasses, and no matter what they do in decisions, it's just not going to load any quicker. whereas other people have some that are very quick. Their queries are quick. Some of them just have better processing on the server side to handle that. It's just going to vary. But yeah, we have tips and tricks and ways that we recommend handling it to improve performance overall. All right, so that is that question. Let's see. We have nothing in the Q&A specifically, it seems. And we got some more participants now. We'll be glad to take any questions that y'all have. If nothing has come up at the moment, then I will continue on discussing the asynchronous behavior with these two steps over here. So let's go back to the start linked flow async, and we'll go into flows. Yeah, here we go. So what this step actually does is it allows you to pass in a list of some sort of object. I picked decimal, but it can be a complex type too, as long as it's a list. And you can specify an output type for certain options as well. But the idea is that you can pass in this list and it will execute the same flow for each individual item on this list, which is called input when you go to the Data Explorer. So I said I pass in a list of decimal, right? So my input is decimal, just a single item from that list. And you can have it execute those items in a variety of ways. So if I were to Oh, I apologize. I see another question. I will come back to this. Smitha, let me see here. Um, is dashboards the best way to expose flows to users? We have a form which we want the users to update. We will have many similar forms, so we need a common landing place for this. What is the best way to do it? So I will outright state that there is no best way. However, dashboards are a fantastic tool that you can use to be able to accomplish stuff like this. So let's say that we make a dashboard. In order to make a dashboard, we got to make a page. So let's make a page first. And your goal is you want them to be able to execute a variety of flows, right? A variety of forms. You may have multiple different things that you're going to be running here. So we have a bunch of different ways to do that. The first one is a run flow part. This is great if you're just trying to be able to continuously have this option available to users to be able to display a form, have them do some stuff on the form, hit OK, and then it does something and still have this option available for the future. So if I were to create a new flow, I'll call this, I'll just call it display form flow. And then we're going to show form in this. I'll just pick your form that we have here, go into here. I'm going to ignore this for now. The idea is that they've just got something they can do, and then maybe it saves it to the database. I'm not sure if it'll show a pop-up. It might show a pop-up. Let's just put show pop-up and see if that works. I'll go with constant. The subject is completed, and we'll say the message is thank you for your submission. All right, so let's go into this, make sure everything's configured well enough. We'll give them some sort of text box as well that they can enter in. We'll call it favorite. We'll call it dream car. All right. And we'll just make this something fun. And then we could have something in the database, a save feature or some sort of save step that would record it. But in this one, we're just going to show a pop-up. And you know what? Why don't we dynamically map it just to show where this data is going? All right. So instead of doing just a constant, we'll do merge plain text, show editor. Thank you for your submission of, and then dream car. All right. I'll hit save. That should pop up to the user. All right. And I am going to leave this as is for now, and then just show what this does and then add more stuff to it. So we need to go to public. make a public folder. We'll create a folder here. We'll call it Smitha Dashboard. And then we need to add a page to this dashboard. So we're going to go to, oh, that was very quick. Let me redo that. I'm sorry. Pages, more, add a page, pick the page, Smith a page, and we're going to pick that. We'll save it, give it a, oh, we can just pick it over here. And our flow, you'll see the form here is not really conforming to it because we made this very tiny. So why don't we go back and change that just to make things look pretty? It'll display the entire form if you scroll around, but that just doesn't look the best. You know, I'm going to drag it to this big open space here and save it. Now, when we go to this dashboard, here we go. Into your dream car. I'll just say GT 500 Shelby. And when I hit proceed, oh, because we put that to select. That's my bad. That's a form problem, not a page problem. Remember how we set the data grid to be able to select an output? Well, because we didn't pass anything in, it's not letting us proceed without picking something, and it's recognizing no output. So we have to go back into the form. Apologies, slight delay. Should have caught that earlier. Let's delete that. There we go. Now let's go back, go to our dashboard. Let's do the same thing, GT500 Shelby, and I'll hit proceed. It executed, completed. Thank you for your submission of GT500 Shelby. So this is one way that you can have a quick process execute in your entire, whatever your process is. You can have a quick form execute and then have logic on the back end of it in the flow itself to be able to save it, manipulate it, send assignments to people, just do whatever you need to do from there. Now, that's one way to do this. You have specific buttons that let you just kick off flows in general that are not displaying the form within your page. So let's go to some of those options as well. If we go to your page, and if we have, I think it's link. I think it's called link, or I'm gonna search flow. So run flow right here. Perfect. So we can set this as a link, as a button. You can upload a custom image, like maybe you have a company logo you want them to click, something along those lines. You can choose it to be one of the uh, action buttons or of that style of action button, which is actions that you actually add to the page itself rather than, sorry, to the dashboard itself rather than the page. And then you got to pick a flow to be able to run from this. So this will just execute a flow, whether it has UI interaction or if you just want a user to kick off a flow that they don't have any interaction with. This is a great way to do that. Were you looking for something more specific than that? And I realize I'm so sorry. I didn't unmute you for any of this, and that's on my bad. Like, you should be able to talk about what you're asking. Here you go. You should be able to talk now.
Yeah, no worries. Thank you so much, Greg. This is very helpful. This is what we were looking for, like options of how we can expose something to the users. I think we should be able to work with one of these. Thank you.
Oh, absolutely. One more thing I want to point out on this, because a lot of people like doing this as well. You see this part, this hide title bar, use portal settings. If I hit yes on this, this is going to hide the title up here so that they don't see a title on this. Maybe you want them to be able to like interact with a form, but there's no title above it, you know, just to make it look prettier. That's a great option. And that's what I'd recommend to do that.
On this same thing, right? In a page, if I have two forms, so I can just use grids, divide it, and we should be able to display two flows if we go that
Oh,
route.
absolutely. In fact, another great option is a tab container. All right. So this, instead of just doing a grid option, I'm going to move this over here just for displaying this. I'm going to move this tab container over here. So now you have tab A, B, and C. Let's say we want to call this one something like claims. I want to call, actually, let me be a little bit more specific. Let's say this one is all claims. We'll call this one active claims. And then we'll call this one review dashboard. So what this does, and I'm going to put grids in them just for demonstration's sake, and it makes things look nicer. So go to layout, grid layout. I'm going to drop a grid layout in all claims. I'm going to drop a grid layout in active claims and drop a grid layout in review dashboard. Now, each one of these is a separate tab that the user can select, and they'll have certain options. So maybe for this one, they want the run flow part, right? You want to be able to run the form. Maybe in the active claims, you want a report viewer where they can see all the active claims that exist. Maybe you have a review dashboard that needs to be kicked off with some process that you can put in here. And of course, you can add way more than just one item to each tab. This is just for example's sake. But I'm hoping this kind of gives you an example of different ways you can customize and really condense the information that you can put on a dashboard.
Sure. Thank you very much. This is very helpful.
Of course. And if I might add one additional thing, you can add more than one page to a folder. So right here, we've got Smitha page, right? And you can disable folder view for other people so they can't see this one. But I can create more pages that just end up as tabs up here that users can navigate to have different options.
Sure. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Let's see. Any additional questions that we can assist with? Nothing coming up so far. Nothing in Q&A either. All right. I think I'll finish my little info session on the run flows for list, and if no one has any questions after that, I'll let you all get to your business earlier for what you want to do. All right. Wrong one. Here we go. All right. So I was mentioning about the input and output types, right? So you get to create the flow in here, and then you get to set the run behavior. And this is at the core functionality of what this step can do. So quick recap. You pass in a list of items. You create one flow in here, and that flow runs multiple times to be able to handle each item in the list, and you can provide an output that can get passed on to the rest of the flow. The run behavior determines how these certain flows are run. So you can run them synchronously, just run them in order. That's basically the same as a for each step at that point, right? You're just taking in a list, running each one individually, and passing out an output. You have the thread job option. It lets you run things in the background, runs asynchronously, just like the start linked flow async. Every single flow can execute in a different queue if things so work out that way. Now, the number of flows it creates is based on the number of items in your list, not the thread count. The thread count indicates how many queues will be created on our thread dashboard for these processes to run. So if I have 12 items in my list and I have a thread count of 4 queues will get created with 3 items each, right? 4 times 3 being 12. So that's how this behavior works. And you can specify the queue name once again so it doesn't conflict with other queues. I'm going to go into work queue another time, but I want to talk about the async and wait. And I apologize. The thread job async is what you would be looking for the behavior I just described. Async and wait is a very interesting process where all of the items are executed on the back end just as they would be in thread job async, but it waits for all flows to complete before going to the next step. The advantage of this is that you get to run multiple flows at once to accomplish the process that you're looking for and not have to have them wait one after another. And you can wait to actually get the output data to be able to use later in the flow. Because if I select thread job async and I'm expecting an output, it's just going to skip past this step, right? It treats it like an async step, so it just goes right through it to the rest of the process while this goes somewhere else on the back end to execute. So you won't get any output from this, even if you're asking for one when you use this particular run behavior. But async and wait will give you that output. So let's run into this. I want to not remove null results. And if I hit debug on this, we'll find some very interesting behavior. I have it set to async and wait. And actually, just for this example, we don't need this delay step. I'm just going to set it to 2 seconds. Because I'm not going to go to the thread job dashboard yet. I'm going to debug. We're going to wait. We're not going to see anything executing because it's asynchronous behavior, right? And then it moves out. Now, the numbers that we passed in were 1, 2, 4, 16, and 32. And remember, our process just subtracts 1 from each one of these numbers. So, if we look at the output here, you'll notice something interesting. It does subtract 1 from everything, but those aren't in order. And the reason those aren't in order is because everything's being run asynchronously in the background. This step does not try to recompile or run things in a manner where one executes after another, unless there are 2 items in the same queue, in which the item queued first would execute first and the item queued second would execute second. So, in this particular example, and in any one of these, you're going to get a different list of results. And by the way, this is basically random. It's just upon which one executes first. So even though the results list is in this particular changeup, it may look different in the future. Now, let's go and change this delay step to 25 seconds so I have time to get to that dashboard. And we are going to run this once. We're going to run the flow. Going to exit out. Yes, I do want to save this. We're going to go to scheduled jobs, thread jobs, and then what were they called? What did we call them? They weren't called worker. Oh, because we're in the async and wait behavior, it's not going to show up here. That's my fault. I should have switched that to the other one. Let me go back. Wrong one again. There we go. Let's change this from async and wait to thread job async. All right, I'm going to save this, and I'm just going to run the flow from out here. Give myself a little more time. Run, settings, jobs and events, scheduled jobs, thread jobs. Now, here are the customer queues, right? So we have 4 separate executions. Unlike the other one where you can treat it as an index, this one will match the number of threads that you ask it to run it on. So if you say 4, it will create up to 4 queues. We have 6 numbers in our list, so it should be running 6 times. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6, right? Those that are currently running are listed, and those that are waiting on the other ones are, well, not listed as currently running. So I hope that gives a good overview of exactly what this kind of step does and, what to look for here. I see we have a few more attendees now. Oh, no, we have less attendees. My bad. Well, that's what I've got to share right now. I think I'm gonna wait just one more minute if anyone has any additional questions, and if no one does, I think we're good to wrap up. So I'll let that 1 minute timer start now. I'll just navigate back here while we're waiting. All right. I think that's gonna do it for today. Thank you all for joining. Hope you all had a wonderful lunch and learn, and hope you all have a wonderful rest of your day.